Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll call you right back podcast.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. Welcome back. We have a great episode this week. But before we get to the episode, a couple things that I wanted to talk about. First off, I'll Call You Right Back podcast is proudly sponsored by Turner Dairy Farms, and they're just pumping out a lot of great products. I talked about it last week. They just released their 90th anniversary limited edition flavor. It's birthday cake flavored. It's a blue milk, but this past week, 2 weeks, they started to produce the same milk, but with a new label. So the label is a label off Star Wars. It's Bantha milk. So the blue milk from A New Hope movie and some of the other movies. It's the official drink of Tatooine, but Turner's made this label on their blue milk say Bantha milk. On the bottom it says official drink of Tatooine, and the use by date is May the 4th, on the play of May the Force be with you. Obviously. Come on now, obviously. But it's out in stores right now. Whatever's left over is out in stores. No more will be made. So if you get one, hold on to the packaging, wash it out, hold on to it. Or you could do whatever you want with it, really, but I would keep it. I haven't got to find one yet. I went to a few different places and I have not found any yet. And I think it's like a golden ticket almost, except you get you don't get to really go tour the Turner Dairy. But it's a gift if you find that. Not too many people will get one, but once they're gone, they're gone. They will never be made again. And I thought it was super cool that they did that. It's a fun thing to do. It keeps, it makes you feel fresh. It's fresh. But Turner Dairy Farms and the creators of Turner Premium Iced Tea, the city's bloodline, I'm appreciative of working with them. I'm appreciative to have their name on the podcast and have them behind me with whatever I'm doing, and just great people over there. Follow them on Instagram at Turner's PGH to stay up to date on all the new stuff they got going on. They are releasing so they have a cold brew coffee drink that they just started putting out. It's called Cold Brew Haha. So if you go on Instagram at Cold Brew Haha, HAHA, and it's a cold brew drink, and it's bottled with non-lactose dairy, and I guess would it be called? Yeah. Non-lactose milk, but there's 3 different flavors and they will be hitting the shelves, so keep a lookout for them as well. And I got to try them and they really, really are great. Another thing I wanted to talk about, Streets on Carson. Every Sunday they are going to be doing a family dinner. So basically what it is on Sundays, you will be able to come and just grab a plate. There's not a menu. You just say yes or no, basically. Matt down at Streets, he creates I guess a menu for the day. It's just like it's a one-off menu on Sundays. You got to order it ahead of time. He stops orders the Friday at 10 a.m. before if it doesn't sell out, and they have been selling out. I think the last 3 weeks have sold out. He got 150 slots. Plate is $10. He started doing dessert with it. The dessert is an extra $5, and me and my wife have been getting it, since they started, and we will keep getting it until he doesn't do it anymore. But he's had such a great response. I'm sure he's going to keep it going. This week is a chicken parm, a gassed up chicken parm. If I could reiterate the way that Matt described it. But this ain't your bullshit chicken parm. This is like a boutique chicken parm. This is that high quality shit, that gas. But I'm impressed with all the meals. It's so nice to be able to just call, say I want 2 plates, and Sunday he opens at 6:00. I run right down there. He got a nice single file line. He does it very, very safe. You hop in, just grab your 2 boxes or whatever, how many boxes you want. Order 10 if you want, and then go to your house and enjoy a nice meal. And I'm pumped about it. So another thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, I've been getting pretty heavy into bacon. I really, not bacon the meat, but baking. And I've been having a great time with it. I'm curious to know, what are you guys watching? Because I'm getting kind of burnt out on TV. I'm getting kind of burnt out on the shows that I've been watching. If you got a movie that you saw that you loved, please hit me with a DM, because I would love to watch it. I'm taking recommendations because I've been in this damn house. I think we're going on like 38 or 39 days right now, which is bananas. And it's just crazy. It's crazy what we're doing right now. We're in a house, we're locked in the house, we're just trying to keep our sanity. Me and my wife here, and what else can you do besides watch shit, read stuff, build a puzzle if you want? That's why I took up bacon, basically. I've been wanting to do some baking before this quarantine shit happened. I've talked about it, but this quarantine is a blessing and a curse for people, because you could use this time to speed up some of the things you wanted to get done in your life, some of the things you wanted to do, and some of the things you wanted to kind of start and get rolling. We got free time to do it. So now we got to seize the opportunities that we have, seize the time that we have for new opportunities, if you will. But yeah, man, that's all I've been basically doing, is just chilling, baking, trying to get some good shows to watch. And I mean, like, what else can we do? But I don't know. I got some good episodes, though. I mean, obviously, if you guys have been following the podcast, you've realized the last few weeks, I think it's like the last 4 weeks now, we've been stuck in this quarantine, so I can't interview guests. Obviously, last week we had a special case. We had a phone interview, and it didn't go bad. Everyone liked it. They said it sounded good. It's just hard for me to interview someone on the phone. I mean, it's not hard, but it's just like, I don't enjoy it. I'd rather just save interviews for face-to-face. I like to meet people. I like to shake someone's hand. I mean, who knows if we'll ever be shaking people's hands anymore, but I like to look at that amateur ass move with my phone on, idiot. But I like to be face to face with someone. I like to be, in the room with someone. And until I could figure out when that's going to happen, until all this virus shit gets taken care of, I'm going to keep doing these, basically these, punched up versions of a nice book report. And, the good part is I don't have to listen to some whack ass teacher tell me what to research. I basically just talk to you guys and, kind of come up with, topics that I'm interested in myself, because I mean, if it's something that I'm not interested in, I obviously ain't going to research it. I don't want to learn about something that I don't want to learn about. So it's nice to be able to pick a topic. The first week was pyramid schemes. Second week was cults. Last week was, the grocery guy and food delivery service. And this week I'm doing, the week before the grocery guy was Nikola Tesla. Come on now. That was a fire. I was about to say that was a fire interview, but I just really loved researching him. What a guy. Definitely check out any of them, the research episodes, because, it's cool to learn about shit. I like learning about things. Just reading about some of the stuff, actually taking some time and giving it to a certain topic and getting a little bit deep in that topic is different. And I've been enjoying it. My hair is outrageous right now. I look like one of them shaggy ass cows that have a swoop on it. And that's, I'm staring at myself right now through a mirror as I record this, and I'm just like, Jesus, your hair is fucking terrible. But what can you do? We're in that quarantine life, which leads me to the reason we're here. We're here for another research episode, and this week's topic is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, if you do not know who that is, Tony Robbins was that guy in Hal. He was that guy in Shallow Hal that, was in the elevator with Jack Black and rewired Jack Black's brain to basically see women as there are real personalities. So if it's a hot girl with a shit personality, she looks terrible, and vice versa. But Tony Robbins, I didn't know too much about this guy. I knew that he looked like a giant, and I didn't know why. I knew that he was a motivational speaker, and I knew that I used to see him on infomercials. And he was just, he's always kind of been like a, I don't know. I want to say weird, but who am I to call anyone weird? I'm a weird guy myself, but Tony Robbins is a little bit strange. But I started researching him because the chef down at Streets on Carson, the owner and chef, Matt Christie, he hit me up and he was like, yo, you got to watch this movie on Netflix called I Am Not Your Guru. And it's basically a documentary about Tony Robbins and like one of his, I guess you would call it like his seminars. It's called Date with Destiny. He's popular for two different seminars. One is called Date with Destiny, and one is called Unleash the Power Within. And, I don't know. It's a typical motivational speaker, music pumping, he's coming out on the stage, jumping around, looking like a lunatic. But I mean, some people love it. He has a crazy resume of people that he's worked with, everyone from Donald Trump to Oprah to the Kardashians to, numerous other people, celebrities, sports people, business entrepreneurs. And, I didn't really know anything about this guy. The first thing I looked up, before I watched this documentary was how much he was worth, and it's $500 million. So Tony Robbins, to my knowledge, is worth about $500 million. So $500 million with a B. And I was like, holy shit. So my first thought was, what does this guy do that allows for the money that he charges, and what is his qualifications? Those were my first questions that I wanted to know the answers to. What was his background, and what does he do to make people pay so much money? So my first point of research was watching this on Netflix called I Am Not Your Guru. And again, he basically books out a hotel. This one I think was in like Beverly Hills or some shit, or Malibu, wherever. It was nice as hell. And the Date with Destiny seminar is a 6-day long event. So 6 days. Each day is 12 plus hours. So it goes from like 11:15 in the morning to 11:30 at night. And sometimes it runs over. And I think they said the number with this one that he did was 2,500 people. Okay, so 2,500 people, and the course or the seminar, it cost $5,000 to go to. Granted, it's a 6-day seminar. I wasn't able to figure out if, the room is included in that price, which I doubt it, but people were spending $5,000 to go to these places for 6 days, and basically you're sitting in a hotel ballroom, like one of them. If you ever go to one of them Logging Home shows, or like Rich Dad Poor Dad, or one of them people that are doing like some of them seminars that you'll go to a Holiday Inn, you're sitting in one of them whack ass chairs that hurt your fucking back, and you're just like, I don't know, but these people are sitting there for 12 hours for 6 days straight, and it's packed to the brim in there. There's an insane amount of people in there. And if you think about this, this guy's a motivational speaker, life coach, whatever you want to call it, put it under any umbrella you want to call it. And, after watching this documentary, just like the first 10 minutes, you realize that there's a whole array of people that come to these shows. Everyone from people that are just like, business people that want to excel in their life as an entrepreneur, to people who want to commit suicide, people that have nowhere left to go, nothing left to look forward to. This is their last shot to go see this life coach, motivational speaker. And, it's pretty interesting. My research has some pretty interesting results, but I wanted to talk about his life from the beginning. So, Tony Robbins is about 9 foot tall. He looks like Andre the Giant, but skinnier. His real name is Anthony Mahaverick. So Anthony Mahaverick. First of all, he changed his last name. Something got to be sketchy, right? But he was born in 1960. So he's 60 years old right now. And I mean, he don't look it, that's for sure, but he is just big as hell. But he was raised in North Hollywood, California, and he later moved to a place called Azusa, California. And he attended, he didn't do anything really except for, go up to high school. That was his last bit of schooling, was high school. He didn't have any college, no training no schooling beyond high school. But this guy is a life coach that is getting paid billions or $500 million, basically. He's just getting paid millions of dollars to talk to people. So again, I wanted to know what his background was. Did he go to school? Is he a registered psychologist? Is he does he have any professional schooling whatsoever? And no, he doesn't. Nothing beyond high school, which is wild to me. But he had his regular name. I don't know when he changed it to Tony Robbins, but Anthony Mahaverick is a shady guy. But in the beginning of his career, up until he was like 17, he was a regular kid. Supposedly his mom was a lunatic. It says that she was an alcoholic, said that she was a painkiller abuser, and would just beat the shit out of this dude, supposedly. But like I said, he's literally, I think they said he's 6'9", is it 6'9", which is, absolutely insane. I mean, I couldn't even not imagine how, being that tall. How does that dude even sit down places? But it's interesting because whenever he turned 17, he started promoting seminars for his mentor, Jim Rohn. He had a bad life. He didn't, from what he says, he had a bad life, but supposedly, growing up, he didn't have too many friends, and, he wasn't, really, really happy with who he was. So he found this motivational speaker, and then he went to see him, and then I guess he started working for them. And this Jim Rohn dude was teaching something called neuro-linguistic programming, which is, it's hard to figure out exactly what that is because, whenever I read the terminology of it, I don't really understand what it means. But supposedly the neuro-linguistic programming creators claim that there is a connection between neurological processes, language, and behavioral pattern learned through experience, and all these can be changed to achieve specific goals in life. So I don't know what that means, really. If I read that, I don't really understand what that means. A connection between neurological process, language, and behavioral patterns learned through experience, and that these can be changed to achieve specific goals in life. I mean, my first idea is, that's is that hypnotizing people? I would assume so. It talks about a little bit of hypnotism. Hypnotism, is that the right word? But anyway, this is a pseudoscience, but there's no scientific evidence supporting the claim by the neurologistic programming advocates. It's not, there's no evidence to it. It's just, which is wild to me. You know what I mean? If there's no evidence, that's... One time my mom, okay, so this is a sidebar, but this is the kind of shit that I think of whenever I'm researching this stuff. I think of experiences of people that I know personally that have done things like this that I thought were sketchy, you know what I mean? And my mother has went to hotel or these hotel seminars for the weight loss thing, for quitting smoking cigarettes. And it's interesting to me because for me, someone who's never done it, for me to think someone could hypnotize me to lose weight or to quit smoking cigarettes is wild to me. But my mother had a friend that she worked with who smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day for as long as she could remember. And I guess she went to one of these hypnotists, quit cold turkey, and she still doesn't smoke. So I don't know. I guess this is all just subjective. I guess it is all just whoever their focal point is. If your mind is able to be hypnotized, I don't know. I don't have any experience in being hypnotized. So it's it's a little bit strange for me. You go to Idlewild and you see them shows that they would put on where they'd call up some guests and everyone would be sitting in a chair and everyone would lean to the left and lean to the right and, lean backwards and stand up and quack or whatever. And I'm just are these motherfuckers really hypnotized, or is this just them kind of playing along with all this stuff. But anyway, back to Tony Robbins. But he began his career early promoting this guy's stuff, and I guess that's how he got into the lane of wanting to become a motivational speaker. After he did it a couple times and after he kind of like got his feet wet, in high school, he would go to these basically they were like debates, persuasive debates. And he was just good at it. Like, the guy's a great talker, obviously. That's what he does for a living. He's a great talker. He gets thousands of people's attention, and he keeps it for fucking 12 hours a day for 6 days in a row, and you're just like, how is this happening? But in 1983, Robbins learned how to firewalk. Okay, so through all this promoting, this linguistic programming and like promoting these seminars, it comes to different experiences. Like, this guy obviously got to go experience different things, and part of these learning seminars and everything, like, you do weird shit. Like, he talked about firewalking a bunch of times. Like, I've seen it come up in my research numerous times. I don't know why. I don't know what the reasoning is for the firewalk, but I guess it's to a form of meditation, a form of discipline, a form of being able to like program your brain to not feel pain and shit like that, which is kind of weird to me. I honestly feel like I would try to do it. Walk across coals. Ever since I watched The Office, obviously that was fake, but I would try to do that, I would feel. I don't know. That's a whole different topic to talk about, but do you think you would do it for real? Would you, like, if you had the opportunity to walk across coals, would you do it? I think it would be a good time to, you're pushing yourself. You're really testing yourself. But after all this and kind of being strung along with these beginning seminars and him learning the ropes from people who were already established in these seminars, he learned, he began to teach neuroassociative conditioning, which is another form of hypnotism. There's all this weird terminology. I don't know what it means, but I would assume it's a form of hypnotism. All of them have a hypnotism type feel from whenever I read, but he basically just started building from there. This guy had no education after this. This is just a self-made guy, basically. Which, I mean, you can't hate on that. You can't hate on this dude for being, it's not my cup of tea, but, he's out there making money. He's getting bread for all this stuff, and you're just like, shit, he got to be doing something right. He's obviously a great business guy, but he used infomercials to promote his seminars and his programs that he started to develop. And he got 7 books. He got numerous programs. And he was kind of like the front runner of basically I think it was my generation. I remember seeing this dude on TV a lot talking about what were some of his books? One of them was Awake the Giant Within, Money, Master the Game, Unlimited Power, Unshakable, Unleash the Power Within, Notes from a Friend, Giant Steps, everything. He talks about being giant because he's 6'7", big as hell. But I remember seeing this dude late night, trying to promote all these things. And back whenever you're little, you don't ever whenever you're 10, 12 years old, no one's wonder what this guy's getting. We're all just seeing what he looks like and kind of making fun of him. But I guess he was putting up numbers back then because people started to notice him and people started to see him all the time, and he started to expand and he started to gain traction in this field of being a life coach and someone who does these seminars that are self-helped, and excuse me, not Corona, but he, it was interesting because he was just building in this point of time. And while he's doing this, he's about 27, but it says 24 to 28. So in these years of him building, he was in his mid to late 20s. So my age right now, and this guy's kind of getting into this lane. And I couldn't even think about, it's hard to fathom someone who is gonna, be a life coach, because all I think about is, older people have a hard time listening to younger people, obviously. And it seems that, there's a lot of older people that go to these seminars. So you're like, it's interesting to see that there's older people that like really take this guy's advice and everything. And, he has numerous successful, I guess proven, successful cases of people that he's helped out with. And it's pretty interesting because you're like, it's all subjective. Who knows if he really works or not? But Robbins wanted to be referred at as a peak performance coach, not a motivational speaker. And I think that back then is like the term motivational speaker kind of had like a negative outlook on it because there were so many people like selling snake oil. And I think that was a way for him to kind of like protect himself and not be like categorized under the umbrella of all these like, kind of like these strange people that might not be as popular as him. But he's had a crazy successful career, and it seemed to take off pretty fast because he had two top selling books. And it just gave him more traction once he started getting like this notoriety through people. And it said that he's worked with people like Nelson Mandela, Mikhail Gorbachev, Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Francois Mitterrand, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Princess Diana, Fran Tarkenton, Pam Anderson, Quincy Jones, Aaron Brockovich, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony fucking Hopkins. This dude is working with Anthony Hopkins, and you're like, Anthony Hopkins seems like one of the wisest people of all time. You see him, you start to hear harps in the background whenever you see his old beard, and you start to hear people like, like that's what I think of whenever I think Anthony Hopkins. And I feel like that he's not an idiot, but I don't know. I'm going to trust him. In February 2009, NBC released a reality show called Breaking Through with Tony Robbins, which trailed Robbins as he helped the show's participants face their personal challenges. And it debuted in July of 2010, and NBC canceled the show after only 2 of the 6 episodes due to low viewership. So, I mean, from an outsider's point of view, and there's obviously not, there's not a lot of research for Tony Robbins. Like I could read through his books and read through everything, but there's not a lot of like details of his life. He kind of just didn't have any education and just kind of got into this lane and was like, I'm going to be a motivational speaker pretty much. And, I think that a lot of people had like a negative outlook. It seemed to be either, it was 50-50. You either believed in shit like this or you were like, that's bullshit. And I don't know. I was from a family who, my father never believed in dumb shit like this, and who's it to me to call it dumb for anyone to find, motivation and drive through someone else like that. Hey, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But like, I was not raised like that. My father, I could never ever in my life see him listening to a self-help book. He's that typical, he'll read the book, he'll read he'll read the instruction manual and stuff like that. And he'll learn everything he can about what he needs to do. But, he's not like a self-help guy. He is a black and white guy. He reads things, he learns things, and then he utilizes these things. I don't know. He's I guess it all depends on how you come up. But Tony Robbins founded the Anthony Robbins Foundation, whose mission is to empower students and prisoners, organize food drives, fund the Robbins Discovery Camp, and it's interesting because this guy has his hand in all kinds of shit. Okay, so I was looking up like how many businesses he like that he is involved in, and it says there's like over 30 businesses and it says that it's weird because some of them are it's like meteorite excavation, the other one is like what was the other one? What business? It's not meteorite mining, it's asteroid mining if you want to get technical. The other one is 3D printed prosthetics. The other one is but a lot of them are all like coaching and, like motivational speaking type businesses. And that's where he's really getting his money because, like I said, in this documentary that I watched, he had 25 attendees or 2,500 attendees. So 2,500 attendees at this place. And each of these people paid $5,000. If you do a little bit of quick math, that's $12,500,000 just for 6 days, for 6 days of this work. And I'm like, that kind of like, triggered something in my mind to think like, holy shit, like that is ridiculous amount of money. That's a crazy amount of money. And, this dude just makes so much money. So my first question is who the hell is this guy to be giving people advice? And if you look at any of his like styles of how he speaks to people and like how he conducts himself at these seminars, it's kind of bizarre. The dude says fuck every other word. You got to get out there and you got to get your fucking life together, and you're fucking, we're not fucking afraid of doing these things. We got to fucking get going and get the fuck out into the world and get your fucking life together. That's literally how he talks. And I say fuck a lot, definitely not as much as Tony Robbins. And I don't know, like the people in this documentary ask him and say like, why do you use such like crude language? And he's like, he basically says like, it's part of his shtick. It's every time he says, like fuck or like talks about like having sex or anything like that, because don't worry, he brings it up in them topics. It triggers the listener's mind to like reconnect back into where they are. So if your mind is wandering and you hear like a graphic word or you hear fuck, you're immediately back to realizing like, holy shit, this guy said fuck. And you're drawn into what he's saying again, which is kind of like clever to think about. But he just says it too much and it sounds disgusting. Like he just says it way too much. But Unleash the Power Within. I talked to someone on the podcast before named Allison Falk. She was she runs Sex Tech. That's an interesting episode of the podcast. Go back and look at it. But I remember her telling me she went to an Unleash the Power Within Tony Robbins seminar, and she told me it was a good bit of money, and she took her mom there. And whenever she talked to me a year ago, she had really great things to say about it. She said that it was a great experience, said it was motivational, said she really gained a lot from it. So I hit her up yesterday and I was like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this dude because you experienced one of his seminars. And she basically was like, I don't feel the same way I felt whenever we did the interview. And I was like, that's interesting, because in my research, I see that Tony Robbins has been accused of sexual assault numerous times. I think that just in the last year, he's been accused by 9 people, and he was in some hot water for saying some wild shit at one of his seminars about like the Me Too movement and how women use it to get further in life. And granted, that's a whole different conversation about it, and I ain't getting into it too much, but this dude is just like, he's a bold dude. And watching this documentary, you see the way he conducts himself. It's so bizarre because, he has like a team of people that is, probably 50, 60 people that are like working with him to help manipulate his game. So in this documentary, it shows him in this fucking castle that he lives in, obviously, down in Florida, and it's just beautiful. And you're just like, that's pretty interesting. This dude obviously has a mansion the size of a castle, and it shows him doing all these like crazy meditations and bouncing on a trampoline, and just kind of like weird. But then you see the process of like a day of his seminar. So he wakes up and does all his like meditation and all this stuff, and then he just has like a group of people that come in contact with him every day about information about people that are attending the seminar. So if you have 2,500 people, just think about this as an easier way to visualize it. So 2,500 people at one of these seminars, obviously you have to keep an organization. So he breaks people up into groups. There's different groups. I think the one there's like 30 different groups. There's probably more, but I remember the highest number I seen was 30. And he has their staff members taking control of the people in these groups. So you have to fill out paperwork and you have to fill out like information questionnaires. And these questionnaires are basically, easy ways to figure out content and figure out, ways to choreograph the show in a certain extent, or to a certain extent. So one of his staff members is in a group, and you basically have to fill out a paperwork, and it says like, oh, is there any trauma that you wanted to fix while you're here? And obviously people are thinking of like the most, significant things that that are troubling them in life. So some of them are like, yeah, I've been, beat, molested, raped, abused, like all this stuff. So he has these employees going through all these like questionnaires, picking out the juiciest like stories that these people have, and he calls them red flags. And it's interesting because like, if you have a story about like in the documentary, there was a woman who grew up in one of these sex cults called Children of God, and I think it was in Brazil, but it was basically like these family members would rape these kids and, like do this over and over and over again in the name of God, for the love of Jesus, supposedly. She was explaining it. I didn't look into the cult. It sounds wild. Maybe I'll look into it. But he was just like, if you read one of these stories that you hear are going to be like super, super juicy and like, juicy is a bad word, but super, super like heavy and super, super like, intriguing, he has these staff members like giving him pictures of these people so he could pick them out of the crowd randomly. You know what I mean? It's so weird and like it just feels so set up to me. And the documentary is not painting a negative picture. It's supposed to be painting a positive picture of Tony Robbins, but all I got out of it was these people are psychotic. This is somewhat of a cult, and he is definitely somewhat of a cult leader. And I feel like he just takes advantage of people because, to the untrained eye and like to people who don't, research it or see what is happening. If a guy comes out on stage, you're pumped to go see him. There's music pumping. There's fucking pyrotechnics. He got everything going on. You see this guy come out and you just see people like crying and shit like that. Like they are so pumped to see this Sasquatch of a man come out there and just start talking to him. And it's so crazy because like these people are so excited and like, driven to go see these people or to go see Tony Robbins that like, it's like they're drugged, they're brainwashed. Anything he says, they find the positive of it. But, behind the scenes, he has a whole staff of people like monitoring who is what, where people are, how people are acting, what people he should talk to. And like in one angle of the documentary, you could see on the stage, there's like a whole stack of pictures taped to the floor. And I guess what those are is basically like rundowns of people that he should like talk to if he needs to like talk to someone, because these seminars are just basically him talking, explaining things, and like talking to a guest in the crowd and listening to what they say, listening to their problem, and him spinning it back around to say, some motivational shit. And honestly, who am I to judge? But it's just not for me. It doesn't feel very authentic to me. It feels very, very set up. It feels very, very like, kind of weird to me. And, he's having people touch each other all weird. And, he'll be like, oh, hug 5 of your neighbors right now. 5 people that are around you, hug them. Everyone's kissing people on the cheek. And it's just, it has a weird, bizarre feeling to me. But, watching these documentaries, it's kind of interesting because there are people that really believe what this guy is doing and what other motivational speakers and life coaches are preaching. But in reality, like these people have no education on it. These people know not. That's like me going out and just trying to talk people through life. Who the fuck am I to say anything? And who is this dude to say anything? But he always piggybacks it on the same stories about how his mother beat him and, all this stuff, and he was neglected. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but like, it seems to be that he is, he takes advantage of weak-minded people because, like I said, immediately once he walks on these stages, everyone is fucking, in tears. They're so pumped to see him. Anything he said, I guarantee if he was like, drink this Kool-Aid, kind of like Jim Jones did, some people might think about doing it. And that's kind of bizarre to me. But as I'm watching this, like, I'm researching things about him, and it says that he doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, he doesn't even take caffeine, and this guy has so much energy. And I'm so curious to know how, because I feel like it's bullshit. I don't know how someone 60 years old has this much energy without any stimulants. But in one part of the documentary, it shows his wife who just squirts some bizarre shit in his mouth through like through a dropper, and you're like, I wonder what the hell that is. But then I start researching more, and this dude has whole lines of supplements, health things, health shakes, all this bullshit. And then, I'm obviously seeing all the positive from this documentary. So it all looks great. Everything about Tony Robbins looks like, he could change your life. He will rewire your brain to be successful. And that's the positive end of it. But then I go to the internet to see the negative. And that's where it comes up with, 10 stories of him sexually assaulting, staff members, assistants, and like, it's creepy shit. There's stories of him, making his assistants who are like early 20-year-old girls, women, if you will, do weird shit, like calling him into the bathroom while he's taking a shower and saying like, oh, I need you to make note of this. I need you to write this shit down. There's stories of him walking out of a bathroom and just dropping his towel in front of these like young assistants. And like, there's obviously this dude he's getting ass from a lot of people because these people are obsessed with him. People were probably just throwing their pussy at him. And it's crazy to think about that because, look at rappers. Rappers are insane. Rapper could tell their security, find me 3 hot chicks and have them in my bed at night. I think there was a story about Machine Gun Kelly, how that happened, but this is the same way, except instead of being like drunk college girls, these are, these are it's just a different type of person that are attending these seminars. But there's all these stories about one of his like security guards who used to work with him before he got like fired, of how the security guard would have to go and like try to find these girls that Tony like would tell him to go find and see if he wants to go get dinner with Tony Robbins and meet him. And, it's just very sketchy, very, very sketchy. Everything's just real weird. And that's where you get into the whole, like, is he manipulating people a certain way for his advantage, for like his benefit? Because there's 10 cases that I just came across of him sexually assaulting people. And whether it's not physically, it's still sexual assault. Putting his wiener in front of people, I guess like there was an assistant who said that whenever she applied for a job there, part of the application was he asked her if she would be, if she's all right with nudity. Like, is it all right if you see me and my wife nude? Sometimes we walk around nude. Sometimes we're nude in bed. And it's just like, yeah, that's strange as hell. And I guess like the girl said while she was getting interviewed, he was asking her about like her relationship status. And like there's times where he had assistants that he tried to like make advances on and they said no. And some of them he stopped, but some of them, came out later and kind of talked about it. But it's weird because Tony Robbins is represented by these lawyers who are super famous lawyers. So the lawyers that are helping Tony Robbins are the same people who are representing Bill Cosby. And I thought it was pretty bizarre because the people that these lawyers, Lavely and Singer, represent, they seem like kind of shady. Like Bill Cosby is obviously raping women, and these people are his lawyers. So obviously they don't have too many morals, but over my research, it seems like that Tony Robbins is so powerful that a lot of people are afraid to come out and talk about their experiences with him. And I'm not saying he did everything to all these people. I'm not saying that he didn't. That's a touchy subject, because with the whole Me Too thing, like, you can never say a woman is lying about that, because no matter, we have to be real about this. Some women have to be lying about it. Out of all the thousands of cases, even if it's just one, there's a woman that's lying about that. And that could destroy a man's life, but nothing. You can never say a woman is lying about that, because, you can never take that chance of risking the person who is not lying about it. Someone, I don't know. It's touchy to even talk about it, because it's interesting, because there has to be some women that do use it to their advantage, because this all kind of started happening during the Me Too movement. And granted, this dude's $500 million rich, and some people could be looking for a payday, but I myself get the feeling that this dude is a creep. From everything I looked at, from the way he talks, the way he acts, it just seemed very, very weird and non-authentic to me. But yeah, he got these lawyers, and I guess like there's been numerous cases where people came out against him and immediately retracted their statement. And there's cases where his lawyers said that if you don't do this, your life will change. Like, if you don't retract this statement, or if you don't stop or whatever, your life will change for the negative, threatening people to say that this is going to cost them millions if they proceed with this. And, he seems like a scary guy, because with great money, you could do anything. And money could buy anything. If you got a lot of money, you could get out of pretty much whatever. But it's interesting, because I started to look through his website and his other things that he offers. And again, he has these supplements and everything like that. And I'm starting to see like reviews of his seminars. And yes, there's hundreds and hundreds of positive reviews about Tony Robbins. And I'm not taking anything away from him that he didn't help people over the years, because I absolutely believe that he has been able to help people over the years. But the dude got definitely some skeletons in his closet, and there's just 10 that I found real quick. But looking at his reviews of some of the people, negative reviews, because like I said, hundreds and hundreds of positive reviews, but you always look at the negative reviews. And there's been numerous reviews that were saying that his seminars were just a ploy to sell his products, like his weight loss products and his health products and everything like that. And people have said that he's done weird shit in the crowd, he's grabbed people's boobs as they were trying to as he was doing the hugging action on someone, he would cup someone's boob. I don't know. Weird stories. I get it. But this is just things that I came across in my research. And who am I? I'm no one. I'm just someone that's looking into a topic and regurgitating what I found into this great conducted podcast, as always. But Tony Robbins, man, he's pretty wild. He has this thing called the Platinum Package, which is $85,000 a year to be a part of. And you get all kinds of different, membership benefits, countless networking benefits, but it's basically you pay $85,000 and you get some access to these trips. He has his own resorts that you get to go to and shit like that. And it's very weird to me. Everything about this is weird. And, you could go to school under his organization, I would guess Jesus, I can't even talk. You would go to school under his, business, basically. He runs teaching programs to be able to make you somewhat of a coach. But it's wild to see that the minimum deposit with monthly installments is you have to deposit $15,000 in the beginning, and then it's $5,000 a month. And, that's a lot of money. You're just who the fuck could do this? Who's spending $85,000 extra dollars to be in his platinum package to be able to go on vacation with Tony Robbins? Fucking weird guy. I don't know. Nothing about him seemed genuine to me. Nothing about him seemed like appetizing. Nothing about his teaching seemed appetizing to me. Like, watching this documentary was just so bizarre. But you should definitely check out I Am Not a Guru on Netflix, because it'll give you a taste of what is going on. But I think the weirdest thing about it for me was that he has this staff of people that are getting information from the attendees and like communicating it back to him. And kind of, that's an opportunity for him to, kind of choreograph the day around these big stories in the crowd. And, obviously, he does it to work towards his advantage, but everything that he does, he's just super witty. He's a great talker. And I think that that's basically what it all boils down to, is that he's a great talker. He's very, very like smooth, like he's very, very like quick. And, I think that his confidence is a big key in what people love about him. I think that, confidence is key in everything in life. You know what I mean? And like, this dude is so sure of himself that people just listen and hang on every word he has to say. And it's weird because the dude got skeletons, and it's just like, how don't you, like, before you pay $5,000 to go see this guy, why don't you Google it? If I was paying $5,000, I'm obviously Googling the negative shit. If I buy anything that is worth a decent amount of money, I immediately look at the negative reviews, because why not? If there's 100 positive reviews, it's good, but you look at the negative reviews because those are the real, I'm not saying that they're real accounts, but like, those are the things you want to know about. Am I right? But Tony Robbins, man, he's a strange cat. Been divorced, a couple times because he was cheating on his first wife with some of his staff members. And once that happened, like, he would fire these staff members. And there's been lawsuits of him wrongfully terminating people. And, there's lore and there's stories about like him having a sexual relationship with some of his staff members. And once it started to get messy, he would just be like, "You're fired." And, I don't know. You should definitely research him a little bit. It's very, very interesting. I would like to research more about motivational speakers. I didn't research anyone else. Maybe I should have made it a little bit more broad, but I was pretty curious to know this dude's background just because of how much money he was getting paid and the documentary I watched. Because he basically is just bullshitting people. Who the fuck is he to say anything? And that's what made me curious about it. So I started reading, and those are pretty much my findings. Like I said, he doesn't have like a long history like Nikola Tesla or something. He's a motivational speaker. What more can you say about it? He has books about saving money. He got books about building your business. He got books about anything like that. And that just makes me feel like that those are opportunities that he's taking advantage of. If a dude got one good selling book, he could get 100 more if he wants, probably. People, and like, he has people in his corner like Oprah, fucking Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. People, like, his resume has, it holds some weight with the people that he talks to, because if Oprah sees him, I'm sure there's a group of people that are like, "Oh, Oprah talks about him all the time, says he's great. He's been on Ellen DeGeneres. He's suave on there and everything like that." But it's just strange to think about all this in a whole. And, I mean, these are just some of the things I came across. I would suggest to watch that documentary, because, after I started looking up the documentary, it turns out that he was super, super tight with the people that were doing this documentary. He had a clause in his NDA, which is that's another thing I wanted to talk about. All of these people that go to these seminars have to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Basically, they can't talk about what goes on in there. No one could record shit that was going on in there. And this documentary is the first time he ever allowed a camera crew in. But it turns out it was a super, super tight not a tight schedule, but like he kind of had a short leash on these people doing everything. And he had a clause in his contract that said at any point in time he could cancel filming and all of that footage would belong to him, which is like sketchy, right? Ain't that sketchy? But for some reason, that week that they were filming down at this Date with Destiny seminar, I guess there was a lady who went nuts kind of. And supposedly, like after she went to the one seminar, she bit one of the staff members and tried to jump out of a hotel window. And I don't know. After I started looking into that, it started to show more like health risks of these seminars. Like during the documentary, he says at one point, "Oh, we're an hour behind in this 12-hour long speech, so we'll just not give them dinner today. We'll just take it to their chairs. They won't get a break." And supposedly people were passing out for dehydration during his shows. People were like, people are just nuts. They got the wool pulled over their eyes to be talking to this giant. But I don't know. It was interesting. I want to know, I want some other topics to research that I could get deep into. Tony Robbins didn't have too much shit to talk about. It was interesting. It's not a negative. It's not like a loss for this episode of the podcast. It's just the dude didn't have too many things to kind of highlight on. But those were the things that kind of sparked interest in my mind. But if you got some topics, I want to know about what you want to hear about. So if you're listening, excuse me, not Corona. If you're listening to this and you have something that you would want me to kind of dig into, feel free to DM me, I'll call you right back, slide into the DMs. Let me know what you want me to talk about. I'm down to research anything interesting, and people have been giving me great topics. I'm happy with the topics that I've been given. I'm happy with the engagement that people are giving. And I'm thankful for the progress that I'm still able to make in these coronavirus infested circumstances. Because people start following the podcast because I interview interesting people, and instead, now you guys are getting a terribly worded book report from your boy right here. I'm just doing my best. I'm doing my best to make things interesting. I'm doing my best to, try to keep it fresh and try to, keep my mind stimulated. Basically, I'm just at home. I'm at home. If I didn't start making bread, I probably would have fucking jumped off my roof by now because I haven't been able to go out. I've been dying for a nice cup of espresso, and I just don't feel right going outside right now. Excuse me, not Corona. But I am excited to kind of get to keep pushing with these research-based topics. I got some good ones next week. They just released some video of these UFOs. Actually, they released it a few years ago, but now it was technically declassified by the military or some shit. But I don't know. It's supposedly a video of some UFOs. Who knows what to believe with that? I'm not saying that there ain't aliens, because I definitely believe that there's aliens, but I don't know. I'm thinking about talking about aliens next week. If you got anything else, let me know. Please take a second. Let me know. If you could, if you like what I'm doing with the podcast, if you could take a second and subscribe and rate and review the podcast, that is all I ask of you. I would appreciate it more than anything. That's what helps me grow. That's what helps me, be able to climb up the charts on the podcast charts. And, that's what I'm looking forward to. If you want a loaf of bread, DM me and we could figure some shit out. I urge you at this point in time to not take this virus shit lightly. I know people are going to be getting antsy. It's starting to become beautiful out. It's 75 degrees out right now. Starting to become beautiful. I'm sure people are starting to get antsy, but I don't know. I feel like that once everything opens back up, there's going to be another jump in numbers of people getting infected, people dying and shit. But I'm also not a doctor, so I'm not going to give you a Tony Robbins speech where I don't know anything and just pretend I do. So, this is what I want to do. I am not going to skip the Turner crate. So we're going to move to that segment right now. The Turner's Crate is a new segment that I do on the podcast where I get each of the past guests on the podcast to submit a question into the Turner's Crate, and I pick one and I answer it to the best of my ability. So I'm mixing it up. I'm going to reach in and grab a question, and we're going to answer it to the best of our ability. All right. Let's see here. Here we go. Biggie or Tupac? And that is from Jack Cirasulo, and that's episode 9, part 1. And come on now. Biggie Smalls, baby. East Coast. I'm a big Biggie fan. I've always been a Biggie fan. I always root for the big guy. You know, I'm a big guy. I always root for the big guys out there. You got to, right? Biggie just had a new song. Well, it's not new, but it's a recently released song that was pretty dope. It's called Bastard Child. I'm sure you could find it on YouTube or something, but it's dope. It's an unreleased song by him. I was happy with it. I was pumped to see it. But you know, I'm gonna pick another Turner's Crate question just for the fun of it. You know what I mean? So, what is your scariest traveling experience? Sarah McCallie, episode 25. Scariest traveling experience. To be honest, I hate flying more than anything, and if there's turbulence, I start losing my mind. Freaks me the hell out. But I think my scariest traveling experience was whenever I thought I lost my wallet in Seattle, or actually in Mount Rainier. I thought I lost my wallet in Mount Rainier, and I started to panic, but it turned out it was in my pocket, my chest pocket on my flannel. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't look at it. I don't know how I didn't see it or feel it in there, but I mean, I lost my wallet. I thought I did, and I didn't think I was going to be able to get home. So that was probably my scariest. Knock on wood, I haven't really had any crazy scary experiences. I've heard some people that have had terrible experiences, but for me, you know, I'll take that one. That's not terrible, but someone messaged me and asked me to answer, you know, the desert island questions, and I do answer them. Like, I've answered them before, but I'll answer them again. You know, I'll answer them again. Some movies that I've been watching recently that I think that are worth mentioning. One of them is The Lincoln Lawyer. That was on Amazon Prime. That's with Matthew McConaughey, William H. Macy, Ryan Phillippe. Who else was in there? A couple other. Marissa Tomei's in there. Come on now. But it's a great movie. It was really, really good. Never seen it. Came out in 2011 or 2013, one of them. But Matthew McConaughey is like a defense attorney for scumbags like Tony Robbins. But it was good. You should definitely watch it. What They Do in the Shadows is the show that I've been watching a lot. It's on Hulu. I don't know how Hulu does it. So I'm curious to know how TV shows that are on FX, like What We Do in the Shadows, they say fuck on the show. I don't know if on TV they just bleep it or they don't show that part or what, but What We Do in the Shadows on Netflix, on Hulu is great. It's about vampires who live on Staten Island in present day times, and it's just hilarious. I thought that was really, really great. And what other movie did we watch the other day that was great? I've been watching a lot of this show called Life Below Zero, which is about these people living in Alaska wilderness and surviving, and I've been loving that. That's the best. Tom Papa is a comedian. He has a new YouTube series called Getting Baked with Tom Papa, and it's about bread. I've obviously been into the bread shit lately, probably a little bit too much, and what else? Anything else? Oh, yeah. We watched Evil Dead, the remake. Fantastic movie, super gory. And then there was one other movie that I watched that I thought it was so good. Oh, here we go. Blast from the Past. I watched, not the movie Blast from the Past, but a movie from the past. I watched Rookie of the Year. So Rookie of the Year is absolutely fantastic on Disney Plus. And Daniel Stern, Marv from Home Alone, this was his first directing debut. It tanked in the box office. It was not good, but the movie is great, still great. But it's basically a kid. He breaks his arm, and or like a 12-year-old kid breaks his arm, and his tendon heals so tightly that he could throw like 108 miles per hour in the Major League Baseball. Obviously, that's bullshit, but it's a good movie. That's what I've been watching. Books, I have not been reading any books. I have ordered books that I've been looking through. One of them is Flour Bread, or Flour, Salt, Water, Yeast, or what the hell is that called? It's a bread book that I ordered that I was pumped about. It is called Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast. Yeah, that's what it is. But it's a bread book. There's another book called the Tartine Bread Book. I ordered that too. And I think the last book I read was Let's Be Weird Together. And that was by Boaz, who was a guest on the podcast, and his wife. And it's basically just about couples and how they grow weirder the longer that they've been together. And it's a fantastic book. If you're interested in it, DM me. I'll let you know all the information about it. And as far as reading, that's probably about the most I've done in reading. I've just been researching bread a shitload. So I've been reading a lot of bread, but and music. So music is, I've actually been listening to a lot of music because of baking, because I've just been in the kitchen. But my dude Tyler Matty, Ty Matts on music, on like any of your streaming apps, TYMATTS. He has a new EP out. It's called Rivers to Oceans. I've been playing that over and over and over again. It's really great, worth checking out for sure. Probably the biggest news though is Mac Miller's Kids, Kicking Incredibly Dope Shit mixtape is now on streaming services. I'm pumped about that. Hopefully we can get Faces on there. But I guess they're going to slowly start, putting his music catalog on streaming services again, at least his mixtapes. But I listened to that all morning today while I was baking. And then I usually been listening to, I haven't really listened to too many podcasts, to be 100% real with you. So I appreciate you guys listening right now, to whoever is, but I haven't been listening to too many because I usually would listen to them at work while I was working, but I just been watching shit. But there is a playlist on Spotify called 2000 Rap Music, and it's fire. I put that on all day, and I just get wild with it. Death Row Meal. What's my Death Row Meal? I think a Bedamo's pizza. That's what I've been craving lately. I've been craving a Bedamo's pizza. I've been craving some good ice cream. I would love some Millie's Vietnamese coffee ice cream. What else would I love? I would love a buffalo chicken hoagie from Carson Street Deli. I would also love the kefta from Streets on Carson. And then, one other thing. I would eat a fucking truckload of Chick-fil-A right now. I've been dying for it. And I've been really fighting that urge to not go out any more than I'd have to. I've been cooking a lot from the grocery store. We've been doing our part, being good citizens. And then I always ask everyone, if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why? And I would love to talk to Robin Williams. I really would. I think that he's always going to be my answer. I just think that he would be the most fantastic person to talk to. Whenever I ask people these questions, I like to think of it as just like, a very casual conversation. That whole like fan aspect of it all would be out the window. Basically just, you run into him at a bar somewhere, or not a bar because he shouldn't be drinking, but you run into him somewhere and you just have 2 hours to have a conversation about anything. And I think, Robin Williams would be absolutely incredible to talk to. Richard Pryor, any of them people, I would love to talk to him. It would be fantastic. But that's it, guys. That's the podcast for this week. I know that it was a little bit shorter, a little bit shallow of a podcast, no pun intended, with Shallow Hal. But what can you do? Give me some good topics for next week and I'll deep dive into them. So before you go, please rate and subscribe the podcast, 5 stars. If you got nothing nice to say, please just don't say it. And, let me know what you like about it, what you dislike about it. You could email me. I'll call you right back at gmail.com. Let me know what you like. I already said that already, but, call me a piece of shit if you want. But I appreciate everyone listening as usual, and I will call you right back.